Today is All Saints Sunday. Today, as a community, we have decided to remember those who have died. And I know that this service is a favorite for many of you. And if I would interview you individually, I think many of you would say it's because of the candle lighting. But I'd take it a step further. I think it is because we, as a community, agree that it is okay to grieve. And somehow, that is a freeing decision. Grief is a most powerful emotion, deep, unpredictable, sneaks up upon us unexpectedly, calls the value of our everyday lives into question, sometimes makes us even non-functional. In many cultures, historically, there has been a period of mourning after the death of a loved one. Often it is a whole year that was set aside as a dedicated time of grief. And though we don't practice that as an official period of mourning anymore, people often describe that after a year, the grief loses its intensity, its urgency. We've lived through a year without that person. Birthdays, anniversaries, holiday, the first anniversary of their death. Relived memories with or without that person. The grief might still be there, but there's also room for different other emotions. Grief is not gone, however. Grief will from now on be mostly part of all the memories connected with that person. A funny memory comes to your mind about an adventure you had together, and you'll smile. But then you'll also feel the sting of grief, because he or she is not with you anymore. So it's all too understandable that grief isn't a welcome emotion. Maybe one we accept for a certain time, but then it better be under control, locked up or fenced in, and only let out under well-guarded conditions. Sometimes we even ignore it. The trouble is, grief makes its own rules. Grief can hit you years later, out of the blue. And then it's so hard to explain, right? I'm grieving for my friend who died. Oh, I'm sorry, when did she die? 17 years ago? Oh, it's been such a long time. I think it's wonderful to decide as a community to remember the dead, to agree as a community that it is okay to grieve, and to give it a dedicated space and time, this worship service, and especially the lighting of candles. When you light the candle this year, I invite you also to say the name of your loved one out loud or in your heart. It seems to be such a little thing to do, but it is powerful, because the name has become the placeholder of all the memories and emotions connected with that person. And that is what remains with us here. We like to name things. We have to name things. It seems to be a human trait. Everything around us has a name. We like to name things, and we love to name people or pets. Names are important. Being called by our name is important. Names are usually the first information we share when we get to know someone. Our name becomes part of who we are, a part of our identity. It shapes us, and we shape it. And the name remains important, even when the future you imagined didn't become reality, even when your loved one has died. The name may now be colored with grief and pain, but also memories and love, lots of love. We might not say our beloved ones' names as often as we would like to, because there would be too much to explain. The name is now inseparably connected with their death, and that is too big a story to fit into any casual conversation. Maybe just thinking of their name is painful too. But their names deserve a room, a space. Because so they also shaped our lives. They made us who we are now, through grief and pain, through memories and love. And our loved ones are still part of our lives. Their names are part of who we are. Even if we can't say the name as often as we would like to, God gives us